The internet has changed the lives of everyone on the planet, keeping us connected and helping us achieve our dreams in ways that past generations never imagined. Join Christian and Farouk as they interview other startup founders, investors, tech employees, and amazing people who have changed their lives in unbelievable ways simply by using the internet. Find out how you can do it too right now on Thank God for Internet.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of Thank God for Internet podcast with me, Christian Brown, and Farouk Barvovic.
What? Who is that? I don't know who that is.
Trying to make sure I'm saying it right. How do I pronounce your last name, Farouk?
It's really Brbovic, but
Brbovic.
You know, when I immigrated here, they didn't have that special letter, and so I cut off that thing. Now it's just a C, so it's Brbovic.
It's always weird the fact that they made you change your name like that.
They didn't. There's write down your name. So I either that or use CH or something. And I don't know. My dad did that, obviously. So he was like, C. Let's just go. It's easier.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Now, I will say, Farouk, I'm excited about this. This is we're coming up on a few of these podcasts here, man. I think I'm feeling good about these.
Yeah, and I'm especially excited to have Justin today with us, and his startup, and we've been kind of in contact for a little while, and he's been following Extra Founder as well. So it's interesting to see what they've been up to and how is it going.
Yep. Now, so I'll get right to it then. Yeah, since you kind of name dropped who our guest is today. Justin, could you tell the people who you are and what it is you're working on?
Yeah, thanks for the intro, Farouk and Christian, and great last name, Brbovic. Funny story. My last name's Sluzarski, and trying to find the family, I guess, family lines and how it ties back, and it's from Poland, and definitely cut off a couple letters when we came over here as well. I think it might have been I'm not sure the exact original spelling, but definitely changed since then. So cool to see. But founder of Carbon, and we've been working on the environmental and social impact scorecard to connect consumers with businesses that are actually making a positive impact. Have my co-founder Derek on here as well. We've been
hey guys.
Hey Derek, how's it going, man?
Hey there.
Hey, good.
Hey Derek.
So for those listening, Derek's calling in on the iPhone. Quality sounds good though, I gotta admit.
Well, I got the AirPods in, so this is the first test in a live situation. So we'll send the feedback to Apple.
No, I was gonna say Apple strikes again, man.
Cool. Yeah. So we just a quick update here. We're currently going through this PSL, Philly Startup Leaders Accelerator.
Okay. Wow.
Founded in Philly. We're about 5 weeks in, so it's definitely been an exciting ride on the startup journey. So
shout out to Philly out there.
Philly, what's up? And got started on Pioneer. That's where met Farouk and met a lot of other very cool startup founders, and kind of creeping on the Extra Founder site for a while. So definitely meeting some very cool people. So happy to be here.
Yeah, no, Pioneer, I think it's interesting. I think especially during this pandemic, this vintage of company that I'm seeing that started as either quarantine projects or people starting companies because they're inside. I think it's a super interesting time we're going to look back on in a few years from now, because from the Extra Founder perspective, it's interesting to see how people have come in contact with us. And as you mentioned, we're also active on Pioneer. So,
we've been promoting Pioneer a lot. They better send us some traffic.
Right. No, for sure. Now that makes all the sense in the world. But Justin, look, I want to know, could you explain to me, let's break it down. What exactly are you guys doing again?
Yeah, definitely. So essentially, might help to give a quick background. So Derek and I, we've been in the renewable energy space for about the last 6 or 7 years, been working together in that space. His experience, he has well over 10 years, and his parents actually founded a solar company when he was still in grade school and high school.
Oh,
so
wow.
he's been installing solar panels since he was, I guess.
It's the old family business, if you will.
The old family business of the future.
Probably the first, one of the first second generation solar developers out there. So
interesting.
Sure.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And we met in the solar space, and always kind of had this passion for doing things that had a positive impact, and wanted to kind of change the way energy was consumed. And we had a successful venture there, launched some community solar programs in different states, and found the good working relationship. And I ventured off and worked for a startup for the last couple of years. That was also a successful venture, still in the clean energy space, but not the solar energy space. It was more wind power and smart tech devices for residential homes. So kind of first got the first taste of startup life. I was like, wow, this is cool. There's definitely people out here that are my age and making the difference. And
for sure,
not your typical kind of like corporate, Fortune 500 company that I was used to working for. So anyway, saw this opportunity.
I want to unpack this. I want to get into it before we go deeper in the story there. So how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Just turned 30 this past year.
Okay, just turned 30. All right. So to me, what I'm observing is it's amazing that somebody under the age of 31, let's just say, can make an impact in the energy space, right? Because historically, energy was a gray hair business, right?
That's right.
But how do you, under the age of 30, I want to know a little bit less about the company, but I want to know about you two, and how you have been, how do you say, active in the startup space. You've mentioned multiple successful ventures. I don't think that's worth glazing over. How'd you get your start in the startup space / energy space?
Yeah, great question. So it actually was, I'll say, kind of forced my hand a little bit when Derek and I were working together at the solar company. We were a little, I don't want to say too successful, but the portfolio we were working on actually got bought out by a competitor. And we were essentially put out of a job overnight. We were contractors for the company we were working for. And so we didn't have any vested interest in when the portfolio sold, unfortunately. So learned a hard life lesson there. And
that's a gem right there for the listeners out there.
Definitely make sure you have, your butt covered when you're doing something like that. So anyway, I saw a startup in the Philadelphia area that was about 2 to 3 years in and starting to make some noise and make some waves. And it was in the energy space, and I was in the energy space. I was like, this is cool. Definitely can jam, vibe with that. Went and interviewed. It was this, 500 square foot converted warehouse in an old Fishtown building. It was just brick walls and some creepy elevator that didn't work half the time.
500 square feet. That's a New York apartment, isn't it?
Yeah, barely enough room for a bathroom in there. So I was like, this is I guess this is like interesting. It's a little different than your typical office space with the cool windows and
500 square feet. Where'd they keep the beer fridge?
Right. Are you even a startup if you don't have a beer fridge? Right.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. But so yeah, I interviewed, and the first thing I noticed was really the people and the culture, and it was only about 10 people in the office, but they were like the most motivated group of people I've ever met, and interviewed, and it just wasn't a good fit at the time because they were looking for something in the door-to-door space, and I didn't want to go door-to-door at the time. I was like, why would I go door-to-door? I've never done that in my life.
No, that's fair. We got the internet now, right?
Got the internet. I was like, there's definitely an opportunity for the digital side of things, but kept in the loop on their progress. And about a year later, saw another job opening there that was more on their events and retail side of the business. So they're looking to scale their sales teams, through events. And I was like, dude, I can get down with concerts and beer fest. I can go there and I can jam out.
So look, let me ask you this then. What and Farouk, I don't want to keep hogging these questions, so if you got any, feel free to fire them off. But what about this company in particular made you want to stay in touch with them or see when they had another job opening rather than going to another company or somebody else in the space?
It really came down to just the culture and the people that were working there. They didn't have a physical product, so to speak. It was more just an idea, but they were so motivated behind the idea that it motivated me to keep in touch, and really they brought that energy to disrupt the industry as a young startup. As the founder was under 30 at the time as well. And so, yeah, really kind of it just motivated me seeing their motivation to disrupt that space.
No, for sure. Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing that startups have that a lot of big companies don't have is excitement around the job, right? Like it's rare that people are super duper excited about going to work unless they own the company, first of all, or two, if they are really passionate about the mission that the company's trying to solve, if they believe what the company is looking to accomplish, that's when people can rally around that. So that makes a lot of sense. The culture, it'll get you every time.
It's the glue.
It's the glue, yeah.
So
And my
so tell
Oh, I
us
was
a little bit
just
like
gonna say-
how did you get into your startup? Like it's like, yeah, I understand the energy, but yours is like it's like even a total kind of 180 on that. Like it's you twisted it and you know you're doing ratings now. Like
Yeah.
enlighten a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's definitely that's the exciting part. So that's where it gets fun, right? So yeah, being at the startup and kind of seeing how it can grow successfully around just an idea, kind of it was the initial spark of Carbon. And really what I found, you know, while working at this other startup was that there's more room for improvement. There's opportunity for a lot of things that they're saying they're doing, but they're not accomplishing, whether it's because they have too many other things going on, and really the end customer is the one kind of missing out on just a better product and a better experience. So Derek and I had a lot of, you know, late nights, long lunches, you know, while he was still at the solar company, but I always bounced this idea off him, and I was like, wouldn't it be cool, you know, instead of measuring your carbon footprint, you know, you measure the positive things people are doing. And you know,
Okay.
yeah,
I see what you're doing now.
yeah. So we were trying to figure out like a name for it. We're trying to figure out an actual business model, because it's one thing to have like a cool idea. It's another thing, how do you make money on it?
Right. The money, not just the honey.
Yeah, you can't get the honey without the money.
Right.
Where's this money? I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Right. Are you even a startup if you make money? No.
Amazon didn't, right?
No, for sure. But no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, it essentially kind of evolved over the last few years, and I think back in November, so almost a year ago, as of today, was when we came up with the name, came up with the logo, kind of inspiration for the design. Sent it over to somebody over on Upwork and said, "Hey, we want a queue that looks like a periodic table queue to keep it simple."
And I actually wasn't really like fully involved yet at this stage. So this was stuff like this was stuff that was going on that Justin would, you know, we'd meet up to hang out, whatever, just catch up, and he'd kind of like update me on the progress and that sort of thing. So, and just kind of bounce ideas off.
So top of 2019, you guys come up with that, or Justin, you come up with the idea. That's when the late nights and long lunches start to happen, right?
That's right.
So November is when you guys, first of all, shout out to Upwork, shout out to Fiverr, shout out to all these places. But that's when you're like, okay, now I'm going to get a logo for this. I'm gonna stamp something tangible. What about that time? Like, what made you think it was time to go ahead and take that next step instead of just being an idea that rattles in your head?
That's a good question. I don't know really what sparked me. It was just it just seemed like I was getting some validation from talking to people.
Yep.
And it seemed like there's definitely a gap in the market. And just really kind of wanted to see how people would react with a more tangible kind of product to touch and feel.
So somewhere between beer 10 and beer 273.
Yeah, give or take.
Exactly.
Sounds about right. And just for the record, the first Carbon business is actually a brewery, so we got some free beer through that.
Oh, no. See, all falls into place. I see how this is going.
So beer fridge, beer client, free. Look, we're connecting dots over here.
I think I got to give a shout out to Crime and Punishment, because that was kind of that was our post up where we would go and to brewery in Brewery Town in Philly. Great spot. Yeah, so that's where we'd meet up and
shout out to Crime and Punishment in Philly. We would like some free beer when we're in
if you
town.
feel like sending any,
Okay, so in November 2019, that's when you go ahead and get the logo designed. So Derek, but you guys aren't official business partners yet, correct?
Not yet. So it took a couple. Yeah, it took a couple months of, I guess, kind of creating the first version of the website, which frankly was just like black and white text that said "Welcome to Carbon."
Yep.
And then kind of iterated on that just a couple times and shared with people, got some positive feedback, and then I think I started sharing some investment news with Derek around the clean tech industry and some of these companies that were raising a lot of money and exiting, successfully. And he was kind of new to the whole startup space that I was fortunate enough to be exposed to on kind of the West Coast and Santa Monica and that scene out there at the company I work for, had an office out there. So yeah, he realized like, wow, startups are a real thing too, and they get real money, and it's a lot of money.
Well, I think too, yeah, you shared with me this one company that was kind of like, they're like a checking account, but they kind of like check your spending and they'll like rate your sustainability based on where you're shopping. But it was like big companies like Dunkin' Donuts, they were getting like, a good score, which, I don't know like the ins and outs of what Dunkin' Donuts is doing, but that wasn't exactly our focus. But he showed me that like an article about that company in particular that I think was kind of like on, they're a little more like in the financial sector, but they were kind of like employing some of the stuff that we were kind of trying to do for businesses and consumers. And I think they had raised like, 50 plus million. So at that point I was kind of like, all right, Justin, I think you're onto something here. But even before that, like, well, I think we're jumping around a little bit. Justin and I had gone out together in February to go survey businesses. He hit me up and he was like, hey man, I'm going to go out, I'm working on carbon. Will you come out with me? And I was like, yeah, man, we're buds. Of course, I'll support you with whatever, you're trying to do, like, let's do it. And that's like kind of right after that is when he shared some of those articles. And I was like, oh, okay. Like there's definitely something there that he's, kind of keyed into. So
right.
At that point I was like, yeah, man, let's do it.
Nah, I took away a few things there. I think it's funny, just the co-founder recruiting dance. It typically does start with a lot of shared articles or a lot of Farouk. How did we officially make it happen? Because it feels kind of similar, correct? Were we kind of just hanging out a little more?
Yeah, I think we traded, right? You proposed on the website to trade with me, and I was like, I don't know who this is. I don't want to trade with him. No, it was the other way around. I was like excited. Okay, let's have conversations. And I think we were like, we kind of, our trading was really just have hour long, meetups like every other week or something like that. And then eventually I was like, what are we doing? We're just hanging out all the time. We're talking about the same, like he was always pouring tons and tons of ideas about Extra Founder. And we were like, why don't we merge together? Why don't we, build a business together? And that's kind of how it started. So I'm super excited to have, Chris on board, and
I'm glad to be
I can't
here.
wait where we end up going, but we'll see.
No, for sure. This has been exciting. I think just that co-founder. So from November, where you guys get the logo, to where you're essentially trying to court Derek. Am I correct? Like you're just sending him articles, trying to get him excited about the idea. The M word, that millions word, gets a lot of people excited too.
Oh yeah.
But how long, how many, I guess, articles, or how long were you kind of just hanging out before y'all made it official?
That's a good question. I think it definitely goes back to how many beers we had at the the late nights, but definitely.
Well,
definitely.
I don't think I even knew you had made the the logo in November at that time. I don't think it was till later that we kind of circled back and you were like, hey, check out this logo, check out what I've got. He kind of had like something there a little bit already, kind of the very, very like early workings of it. And then asked me to come out with him to survey businesses. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then, he had sent a couple articles. So I think I was already kind of like in at that point.
Yeah,
like I was already going out, helping on the biz dev side, more so just like, hey, let's go out for a couple hours and then like have a beer, or whatever, and just like hang out. Cause that was it. I've almost viewed it more like as an opportunity to just like kick it, with a buddy.
But I have a quick question. What is the surveying of the businesses? What did that really entail?
Yeah, so it was basically it was like 3 or 4 questions about sustainability. The first question being, do you care about sustainability? I don't think anybody said no. Maybe like one out of the 30 or so business
Beer
owners.
Fuck
company.
trees. Fuck them.
Yeah, I think they just wanted us to walk out their business. They're like, yeah, I don't have time for this. But so yeah, asked if they cared about sustainability, asked if they were having challenges being sustainable, which majority, I think it was like 80% said yes, they were having challenges. And then the follow-up questions were, would you use a product or platform that helped you increase your sustainability and socialize it with your customers? And obviously, most people are going to say yes to that. And then it came down to kind of the cost, like, would you be willing to pay for something that did this, and how much would you be willing to pay? And that's where we had a bigger drop off. So instead of getting like an 80% positive response, it was around like 20 to 30%, but still a positive response. And 20 to 30% of people said they'd be willing to pay for this product. But it really helped kind of shape the early direction of the platform, but more importantly, it just validated that there was a problem, and we had to create that solution. So
So y'all,
yeah.
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's it. That was the end of my.
No,
Yeah,
so
we were-
y'all are actually surveying, because I when I hear the word survey and energy, I just assume that y'all were signing $1 million contracts from day one. So y'all were actually taking surveys and getting user studies.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It
Important.
was all early stage to, like, it was just validating the
Yep.
problem,
Yep.
That's the proper
absolutely.
way to go. It's before you go build anything, which is not the way I go. I just build it, then I survey. But that is the, for everybody else listening, all the startups, that's the proper way to do is survey, and like,
Sure.
what was the number one? I'm sure, people told you more than just yes or no. I'm sure people also added a bunch of other problems. What was the biggest problem people were mentioning to you that kind of caught your attention?
Yes, that's a good question. It definitely varies from the business side versus the consumer side. For the business side, it really came down to cost and just knowledge and trust. So one, knowledge being, how do you find things that are making your business more sustainable and increasing your positive impact? And then two, can you really trust it? Because there's a lot of greenwashing in the industry, which is
Yep.
the number one problem on the consumer side is greenwashing. So as a consumer, can you trust a business that's saying they're being sustainable? As a business, they're also looking for services that are making, their business more sustainable, but who do they trust? Because it's really an undefined kind of industry, and that's really started to kind of take hold over the last 5 years. You're starting to see some sustainability standards that are global that are being launched, and that's crazy to think that only 5 years ago and we're creating sustainability standards.
Right. No, I mean, that's the good and bad thing about being in the startup seat is oftentimes you're operating in the Wild West, and especially with what you guys are doing, it's a hot topic right now. Like, everybody's thinking green, everybody's thinking renewable, everybody's thinking sustainable. So these conversations weren't happening 20, 30, 40 years ago. Not at a high level anyway, not at a place to where what's Tesla worth today?
That's a good question. That's a lot. Hope you
4 or
bought
5
stock.
quadrillion dollars or something like that.
I could ask my brother. He used to work for them. He's probably watching that. He's probably watching the market daily.
I think, yeah, I think it depends if he's on a conference call or not.
Yeah.
He usually messes it up.
Yeah,
and goes down
for sure. Yeah, no, he is the stocks do
tweeting.
not like Elon for some reason.
Well, it's like, if you ever listen to his,
he's a
corporate
wild
calls,
boy. He's a
he
wild
does.
boy.
He does say some wild things, and usually like stocks drop after his conference calls.
But
He's got
even
some
that,
great tweets though.
nah, dude, I love it. I personally, I can almost give him credit for me investing into the renewable space, because I remember, and then correct me as somebody as an outsider speaking of this, I remember the energy space, let's say 2010, solar felt really weird to be in around maybe 2008 to 2012. I remember the price of solar panels was like dropping like crazy. And then you saw a lot of people who were trying to transition from the selling of the hardware to the services around the installation. But it felt like everybody was giving up on solar specifically. Maybe not wind, maybe not these other things, maybe not battery. But yeah, it's definitely kind of turbulent in this startup seat that we sit in.
Oh, for sure. And Derek can definitely speak a little more to it, but there's definitely policies that were changing overnight, and it's a very volatile time. And I think there was a lot of tariffs that were, threatening to be placed, and there's definitely a lot of high alert, a lot of concern in that industry. And Derek made his way through that gauntlet and came out successfully. But it was definitely a gauntlet.
Yeah, we call it the solar coaster, or the daily solar kick in the nuts. It's definitely a kind of bit of a crazy industry to be in, but a great one. And you learn. I was able to learn a lot about not only myself, but speaking to residential folks and CNI folks, and kind of getting both sides of that, both sides of things. What are the businesses struggling with? What are the big corporations trying to solve? What are they struggling with? And then as a, kind of a homeowner, what are you after? So a lot of that definitely has translated into, Carbon and what the platform has kind of evolved into at this point.
No, for sure.
So just to kind of get back into your startup a little bit, because I don't, just to make it maybe clearer for the listeners, is what would you say is like your number one product? Like, what's the number one product or service you offer to businesses?
Yeah, so it's a dual facing platform. So the product we offer as a consumer is just a really easy way to identify a business that's making a positive impact, really simplified way, so you don't have to research for hours, go through corporate sustainability reports, and don't have to worry about greenwashing from these other companies. So really trying to simplify that for the consumer. But on the business side, we're creating essentially a toolkit to help them become more sustainable, environmentally, and then also socially as well. There's a lot of great organizations that you can partner with, and essentially there's tax credits and cost reduction opportunities that we can provide to the business in addition to increasing their impact. So that's kind of the value proposition to the business owner.
Excellent. So now that we got all the boring stuff out of it, no, but joking. But seriously, it's interesting, because what do you think is what do you see at having bigger success, or are you mostly planning to monetize one side of that, or is there way to monetize or have impact? I don't even know what your business model is really. It doesn't seem clear yet, but maybe you can elaborate on that a little bit. Or do you only plan to monetize the business side, or both?
For sure, yeah, it's definitely a unique business model, and it's pretty consistent feedback we get is that it's not a traditional business model. It's not a subscription service. It's not just a single kind of marketplace service. We're essentially brokering several services to the business owners, establishing, channel partner relationships with companies in the energy space, in the supply chain space, in the waste space, that are all services that business owners utilize. We're just providing either a more cost-effective way or more sustainable way of operating. So yeah, it's definitely potential to have dual-facing revenue. We like to say we're the Yelp for sustainability and the Amazon for providing services. It's
Nice.
kind of a high lofty goal, but if we can own all those services in-house at some point, 5 years, 10 years from now, and we can provide all those services, I mean, that's the magical place to be. And then for the consumers as well. So not only providing it for business owners, but for consumers, and monetizing that side of it. So definitely big potential, but we're starting small and starting local in the Philadelphia area, and learning a lot and making mistakes and getting better from it. So
No, for sure.
That's where we're
Yeah,
at.
and I think on the business model side, that's something that we've kind of tried to stay really kind of narrowly focused initially, and kind of start with our strengths. We definitely have a Google Doc somewhere with all these other potential revenue streams, but I think it's as we grow, who knows? I think too, even if like carbon cap and trade becomes a thing in the U.S., which I think it's inevitable that it will become law of the land. And
what is? And I'm sorry to cut you off. Could you explain cap and trade for the me's of the world who don't follow?
Yeah. So, well, and I know that we're going like a little down the rabbit hole on
Let's
like
do it, baby.
a forward thinking revenue stream, years from now, but carbon. So basically what it would do is it would put a cap on the amount of carbon that, like a business could emit into the atmosphere. And then you'd be able to kind of like trade those. And I might be, this isn't exactly, I don't know all the ins and outs. So for you listeners out there, if I'm butchering a little bit, feel free to DM me and tell me what's up. Be
forgiving, guys.
But essentially, you'd be able to, like everybody would be given like a limit on the amount of carbon they can emit. And, based on those emission levels, like you would have to buy the rights to emit more carbon if you needed to, and if you use less, you'd be able to kind of sell that on a marketplace. I don't know if that's the exact way that we might implement that in the United States. It could be a different way. But that's kind of like the general idea is essentially there's just a cap on the amount of emissions you can put out. And if you want to emit more, you got to pay more.
So if I breathe out, I have to pay, right?
Right, exactly. So it kind of incentivizes you to all right, well, how do I reduce my emissions? Well, let's do like, you see companies like Amazon doing like large scale power purchase agreements, mostly near where their data centers are, because those are kind of like the really, I think, huge energy load items for them as a company, like all the AWS servers. I know like in Virginia, they did a big power purchase agreement there with some solar farms. So you're kind of starting to see more of that. And I think not only are companies doing it because it's, it's financially sound, economically, the returns are there, but also too, it's just good publicity, which is one of the problems we also found with businesses with carbon is that, we have businesses, and we're talking more like local kind of small to medium sized businesses, like maybe your local brewery or whatnot, but they're having some of the same issues, and they're probably even more magnified because they just don't have the resources to hire a whole, sustainability department and have folks go out and vet, different opportunities. And then even beyond that, how to get the message out effectively to the consumer that, hey, here are the positive things I'm doing. So, that's kind of where carbon comes in and solves that problem for the businesses.
Yeah, and it's crazy to me. It's crazy to me that we have standards in like the accounting field where you can measure, the cost and the profits of a business, but you can't measure the environmental impact. There's nothing really to measure your carbon footprint, and even that, that industry is still just getting started. I think there's a cool startup I followed with Mitwise. I think they're out of the UK.
Mitwise.
They have software that measures Mitwise is cool. So it's just crazy to think that there's not software or any tools out there right now that can measure your footprint in an easy way. So they're just getting started and starting.
Do you think it's the reason for that is the lack of technology, or do you think it's just politics and the environmental from the political environment of that
Well, the political side definitely doesn't help us. For sure, it doesn't. There's not enough initiatives to kind of force that. Like if carbon cap and trade was, implemented, then that would definitely force the commercial customers to be more conscious of their, carbon footprint. But yeah, I think the tech side definitely has to catch up as well. I think there's opportunities. I know Salesforce just got, in the last year, maybe year and a half, they just started measuring carbon footprints, and they had 2 people working on it, an analyst and a developer, and that's Salesforce.
Shout out to Salesforce,
Yeah, it's really, really putting a lot of money behind that one. a lot of resources. No, I'm just kidding. It's good on them for.
I
for
think
doing
Google has done quite a lot in that area, if I remember correctly. They measure their the server, output and all of that, and they've been trying very cognizant. From what I've read, like a few years ago when they were really into it. I don't know if they're still keeping up with it.
Yeah.
One thing that's happened on this show that I wasn't really anticipating when we started it is we have a lot of founders who are very knowledgeable about policy in their areas, right? So I would have assumed before speaking with the guests that we've spoken to that founders aren't necessarily looking for more regulation, but you guys are looking for more legislation and more regulation as you kind of navigate this wild west of a space, huh?
Yeah, for sure. There's just locally speaking, Philadelphia has a sustainability tax credit, which is great, but it's limited to the amount of business owners that can take advantage of it. And not only is it limited, business owners don't even know about it. So they have
right.
I think last we spoke to that department, they said that they haven't ever reached their cap on the amount of tax credits they've given out, just because business owners don't know about it and
No, that's
they don't know
super
how to
fair.
go about even qualifying.
Yeah, I actually just spoke to a woman at the PA Department of Agriculture today, and there's a program there called PA Preferred, which basically you can kind of be like certified as a made in Pennsylvania product or farm. And she was kind of explaining her struggles and with that program trying to just get name recognition. And you'd think like PA Preferred, something like that seems pretty straightforward, right? And one of their challenges is that just not a lot of people know about the program. So visibility is definitely an issue.
No, that's interesting. And just by being in the space that you're in, right? Like energy to me, infrastructure in general, it's just one of those areas to where we can't live without it, right? There was a quote from someone from the CDC, right? If the CDC is doing its job, then nobody talks about the CDC.
Right.
So what you guys are doing, being in such of it feels like it's more of an essential service than a sexy service. How are you guys getting businesses excited about what you're doing, especially businesses who may be on the fence around their approach to carbon emissions?
Yeah, it's definitely a tightrope walk. And early on, some of the challenges we experienced is one, definitely don't want to compare ourselves to Yelp because business owners hate Yelp. I think there's a couple class action lawsuits around that right now. So I don't know.
That's a learning. That's a learning right there.
So yeah, and then two, we definitely don't want to shame business owners, which is some of the feedback we got early on.
Yep.
Because we don't want anyone to feel bad about
your business sucks. You need us.
Yeah, so that was definitely it's a tightrope, and really what we want to do is promote the positive impact they're having. And the way the scorecard is set up is even if they're doing one or two positive actions under each impact theme that we've identified, they're going to have an above average score. So as long as they're taking one or two steps to do the right, really do the right thing, it's going to reflect in their score. So
score, what do you mean? What's the score that you speak of?
Yeah, so the carbon scores, that's the kind of the core product that we're creating. So it's a score out of 100. There's 5 impact themes that kind of correlate with the standards out in the industry right now, and those impact themes are 1, the environment, 2, the quality of the products, 3, the labor, the people. Are you treating your employees fairly, and are they happy working there? And then waste, are you responsible with your waste, and are you composting your food scraps? Are you using recyclable material instead of non-recyclable? And then the last one is the community. So are you doing positive things for your social impact and donating, whether it be to nonprofits or donating unused food that you can actually get tax credits for, and things like that. So tying those all together, and again, that information is already out there. Consumers are researching this information actively on businesses to see what their impact is, but it's just so fragmented, and there's so many different definitions of sustainability. So if you search sustainability of this business, you'll get 10 different answers. So
right.
really just trying to define that and make it a simple scorecard. So, and that scorecard is, visibly available, so you can see how we came up with that score, why they have that score, how they can, potentially improve that score. We show to the business owners. So that way it's, as a consumer, all your questions are answered, and you don't have to search, 100 different places to find that answer.
Yeah, that's actually one of the things. First time when I was talking to you about that is that score. That's what I got excited, because I already see that like a badge. You put it on your website,
Yep.
right? You put it everywhere, right, on your products and things like that. And I think that's really one thing that I think will, make you guys differentiate yourself from everybody else. And
Yeah.
and speaking of that, how are you guys progressing from actually making that more like as APIs, or so it can be just plugged in on somebody's website? Are you guys making progress towards that, or where's that on the roadmap?
Yeah, that's definitely one of the biggest challenges. So Derek and I, neither of us are tech founders. We're utilizing some no code solutions right now, and shout out to No Code, Wix,
Yep.
and even
No
some
code.
design software like Canva has been super helpful, surprisingly. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely on the tech side, it's a bit of a challenge. That's kind of one of our next milestones to we're going to be creating a pretty robust mobile platform, and we envision it being a directory similar to Yelp, where GPS based, recommendations and based on industry. But there's definitely an opportunity, interestingly, especially on Pioneer. The feedback came up pretty consistently to create a drawing a blank. What's that called when you have it installed on your browser and it kind of shows you
Like a Chrome extension.
Yeah, like an extension. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah. So if you were, researching on like someone's website, and you kind of saw what the carbon score is of any website you visited, if they had a carbon score for that business, definitely something where, that's on the roadmap. It's kind of out of our, capabilities right now, from the technical side.
For sure. One of the things.
First steps. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, one of the things I immediately think of with what you're doing, it just feels very akin to a health score rating, right? My wife, whenever we go to a restaurant, before she looks at the menu, she looks at the health score rating, right?
Yeah.
They have to have it hung up in their establishment. And it seems like the people who have 100s hang it up closer to the menu versus the people who have like 60s, it's closer towards the door, right?
It's over there by the kitchen.
Yeah.
Right.
What's your thoughts on not only just digital solutions, but why not print out a certificate for somebody who has a 90 or hang it up in their establishment, the same way that a Foursquare used to do, or the way that Yelp does, review us on Yelp, or delivered by DoorDash, like all these stickers that go in windows and walls.
For sure. Yeah, no, it's definitely something we're actively pursuing right now. And we will have window stickers with QR codes, because QR
Yep.
codes are all the jam right now. So
I gotta
definitely-
say, shout out to Foursquare. Shout out to
Yeah,
Foursquare.
man.
I kind of
Dennis
missed that
Crowley.
app. It was fun going into a place and checking in and seeing the mayor and being like, there's the mayor. There she is, right at the bar.
Mayor. Wow, you're really gonna take us back.
There's the mayor. She's here.
No, that's I mean, whenever I think of Foursquare, I think of that being an example of how timing is a thing, because Dennis Crowley, the founder of that company, had a similar company previously to that, and it was like SMS check-in or Geo something dodgeball. But Foursquare really came into prominence as we were getting more features for the iPhone. So like so many features for the iPhone now feel like they've baked in a lot of that functionality, and it's kind of hard to know if you are building something when, dude, you remember the iPhone 3Gs?
Yeah.
That seemed like it was the
It's
height
way
of
back.
Foursquare. Yeah. That was like the height of Foursquare. iPhone 4, iPhone 5. What are we on? Like the iPhone 30 now?
Well,
30X.
Right.
Yeah.
So, timing is just super weird, because this, as we mentioned in the energy space, it is a bit of a solar coaster, right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that too, there have been a couple other, I don't think we've been the first ones to really try to crack this nut. Maybe not exactly the way that we're doing it. And there are some other folks out there that are kind of doing something maybe a little bit similar. But I don't think anybody's really taken the approach that we have on the consumer side, and you know, it does feel like the timing is kind of right. You know, one
Yep.
group that we also, in doing business surveys, we did a ton of consumer surveying as well. So we kind of validated the problem on both sides. And on the consumer side, we found a lot of the respondents to the survey have actually, you know, really only gotten into sustainability in the last like year to year and a half or so. And before that, they had like no idea about it. They never thought about it, didn't really care about it. So, you know, I think we're definitely seeing like, you know, a sea change here with you know, what folks are caring about and what they're paying attention to.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I mean, it's time to do it now, just before the apocalypse. You know, you don't want to wait after. You know, it's
Can't drink beer in an apocalypse. There'd be no
Right.
hops.
yeah. I mean,
And I've actually thought about that, like watching, you guys know, like 28 Days Later, that film.
yeah.
You know, like when they go into the convenience store and he finds like, or she, no, I think the other woman he meets up with, she has like cans of soda, and she's like, drink this soda. And I'm like, what if I, like, you stumble into a convenience store and find a stash of like something fun, some good beer after months and months. I don't know. Just my
it's I mean, I think
personal musings.
No, for sure. No, I think what you guys are building is important, just because, like Farouk said, like this is, I think that it's more critical now than it was, you know, 20 years ago. Because we are, we joke about it, but the people who are looking to solve these problems are, to not sound too, you know, startup-y, are looking to save the world. Because, you know, if it was up to us, you know, I didn't start recycling until I was 20 something. I'll be honest. But yeah, no, I mean, sustainability is all the rage right now. For several reasons, one of them being that we kind of need it now.
I mean, yeah, I always say this, like, if you have kids or think about having kids, like, you have to think about it. Like, it's, I mean, maybe if you don't have kids, I can maybe get it. You just don't care, you know, you don't care about yourself, don't care about anybody else or future. But if you have kids, like, you know, why are you having kids? Like, unless you're going to provide the future for them in some way. And
but even as an individual, why wouldn't, you know, I mean, like seeing images of like, you know,
dolphins,
plastic gyres the size of like Texas in the ocean, and you know, like
turtles with
just trash everywhere. Yeah, like that's I feel like, you know, there's nobody out there, if you ask them, does this like bum you out? You know, I feel like there's very, very few people who are going to say, no, that doesn't bum me out. You know, like
screw the dolphins.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's I don't know. I think you'll be surprised how many people don't care. I think they're just like,
no, I mean, yeah. No,
there's quite a few.
Because that was me. It's not that I was like anti-sustainability as much as I was just agnostic. Like I just kind of didn't. It wasn't the things that kept me up at night, right? Like I didn't realize how big of an issue it was, or it felt like, you know, we've got 100 years to get this shit together, right? Like we got hundreds and hundreds of years. And
plus now it's been, politics has gotten, you know, its dirty hands into it. Like before, I remember before, like it was like people just like weren't aware, like, you know, like Derek, you say, like, you know, they were just not aware, right?
Yeah.
But now it's almost becoming like people are going against it on purpose.
Right.
And that's what's going to hurt even more is like, you know, I understand if you're not educated or you don't get it, or maybe you haven't seen it, like you haven't experienced it yourself, and there's a chance for you. But if you understand it and you know it's there and it's happening and you're still choosing to ignore it, then that's a troubled waters.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that, you know, most people don't feel that way, and I don't think they do. But no, it's definitely one of the challenges. I mean, the educational aspect of our impact on the environment and how that impacts our, you know, health and well-being is certainly like a big challenge that we're facing.
Yeah, I think it comes down to, especially with the younger generation now, really having a voice and being active on social media has really been kind of the catalyst for a lot of this change as well, because they're the ones that care the most, right? I mean, they're the ones that are actively showing the problems and, you know, wanting a solution, and now they have a platform kind of to socialize it, and corporations have to respond to what the consumer's asking for. And if the consumer stop buying from their business because they're not sustainable, you got to change. You got to adapt to the times, and I think that's kind of the change we're seeing now. And yeah, I mean,
sustainability is cool now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and I
Yeah,
know
it
you
is.
guys aren't doing it for this reason, but sustainability is sexy now. Like it is, you can now. First of all, I'm on the waiting list for my Tesla Cybertruck, so boom.
Nice.
But you
Nice.
you like chicks weren't stopping guys in the middle of traffic because they drove a Prius 10, 15 years ago, right? Versus now, these are issues that we care about. People are signaling that they have eco-friendly this and they have green powered this and that and no emissions, right? So we're seeing more people brag about having recycled t-shirts or recycled shoes or not recycled water bottles, and the corporations are gonna follow where the consumer's interests go.
Yeah, for sure. One of the challenges that we're going to experience too is consumerism, because the super sustainable people are almost anti-consumerism. It's all about right,
Yeah,
reduce,
no, that's fair.
reuse, recycle. So yeah, we definitely have to balance. It's a fine line to
For sure.
balance of responsible consumerism for sure. So yeah.
I recycle my websites. Does that count?
Yeah,
Recycle some code snippets.
your carbon score just went up a couple points.
I burned a
dude.
bunch of hard drives.
No, I think the idea of a carbon score is super duper interesting. It is one of those ideas, and Farouk, you said it's one of those ideas that gets you excited, which leads me to my next question, right? Like you've led us to where you're at up until you guys are doing the customer surveys, but what are you guys doing? And you spoke to it earlier, and non-technical founders, from going to survey to where you are now, and how are you thinking about getting to where you are now and what those next steps look like?
Yeah, definitely exciting times, and it's kind of related to the solar coaster. I feel like we're definitely on a roller coaster ride too. So I'm sure a lot of most startup founders are. One of the biggest things that kind of changed our trajectory was that we made our first hire, our chief sustainability officer, Sid Del Cid from B Labs, Bloomberg.
Nice.
She's a big hitter in the sustainability space, and honestly,
congratulations on that.
Yeah,
it keeps us motivated. It keeps the fire under our feet. That's for sure.
So she's been crucial.
Yeah, definitely. So she's the mind behind the carbon score. That she created the
nice
metrics there, and definitely couldn't have done it without her. At least not this timeline. We've incorporated back in March, and we're going through this accelerator now, which definitely is getting us connected to a lot of the startup network here. And so our next big thing, we got our first businesses on the platform. We started that effort 2 weeks ago. We got our first 5 businesses on the platform, officially.
Nice.
Not made up scores. In the beginning we were kind of doing, thank you. It was kind of like the chicken and the egg, on Tinder, they put fake profiles to get users on there.
Yeah.
We were tempted to put some fake businesses on there.
you got to push.
Got to push. So yeah, that's our next big milestone, really, is to get, we want to have at least 30 active businesses by the end of the year. And then we're going to kind of start the consumer side. But right now it's just, we got our MVP. It's a little scrappy. It's not, it's not a Ferrari. So that's kind of next step after that, is getting the Ferrari out there and really, just improving the customer experience from the platform side.
You speak of this accelerator. I'm not familiar with it, but is it online or is it in person? How do you guys, especially now during COVID, how does it work?
Right.
Yeah, so traditionally it's an in-person accelerator, but like every business out there had to adapt to the times, and now it's all virtual. And we did our first lightning pitch round last week. We had to pitch 6 investors within 5-minute pitches each, and back to back, and little definitely going under the gauntlet, but it's been great. I think they adapted pretty well to the times, and we have our mentor, Patrick Fitzgerald, who started a similar company successfully, exited, in the last 5 years. So just the mentorship we've been getting there has been really, impactful. And we finish up in December. So we'll hopefully, one of the goals we have is to, we need some funding to kind of keep the motor going, and keep
Yep.
Sid Del Cid happy as well. We can't lose our first employee. So yeah.
No, for sure. No, for sure. I think it's always interesting to see the process that somebody goes through from idea to bringing on that co-founder to essentially what you guys are saying is getting ready to start raising capital. So, that's one of the beautiful things about the internet culture that we're in right now is it's so institutionalized that it's not, you don't bat an eye when somebody raises $1 million anymore, especially if they have a product in the market, especially if they've gotten that proof of concept, especially if they show traction. And then they get their pitch practice. They get somebody excited about their vision.
For
I have
sure.
a question for you. Are you guys doing? Are you guys full time, or you guys have like also side gigs and things like that? Are you guys able to support? How are you guys supporting yourself? This is like as startup founders, it's like always number one thing on the mind.
Yeah, so I'm full time. I was fortunate to kind of go through the COVID layoffs, and yeah, I mean it was a nice parting going away package. That kind of I was like, if not now, then when? And then Derek's, fortunately full time, so he's been subsidizing my expenses a little bit as well.
Yeah,
tabs all go on Derek's tab.
No, for sure.
Don't worry, Justin. It's coming back. It's coming back someday. Hopefully sooner rather than later. But no, it's all good. Yeah. So I'm not full time. But make as much time as I can in between. And I'm kind of used to just working 2 full-time jobs, honestly. So
yeah.
This is like the number one thing for survivability. Like it's for startups, like especially early stage, like ours and yours, right? It's how long can you survive? So the longer you can survive, the higher chance you're gonna have of success, right? It's because as soon as you start, like right now, if you start hiring, right, that's when you start
burn rate,
right? You burn rate, especially if if you start hiring more employees and if you start having office space and things like that, that's when things start burning quickly. So yeah.
No, this is it's super interesting to see this, man. I do want to congratulate you guys for basically starting a company and running it during all this chaos. It's been a crazy time. As we wrap this up, though, I have a few more questions I want to ask, because I was interested at the fact that you guys said you're both non-technical founders. I just want you guys to talk to this for a minute because I'll go on a monologue. I want this to be something that listeners who aren't technical founders can take away from this. Talk a little bit about that no code movement. Talk a little bit about how you were able to overcome getting an MVP up without having any technical experience or a technical co-founder.
For sure. Yeah, definitely one of the biggest challenges we faced early and still face. Number one, got to get scrappy. You got to learn a little bit of the back end and just kind of understand the functionality. So I did my personal kind of research on that. I took a couple of crash courses and realized, okay, I understand how it works, but I cannot do this full time or, it's like building a house. Like, you can learn how to hang up a picture or something, bang a nail on a wall, but it doesn't mean you can build a house. But
you got to respect the carpenters.
Weird analogy. Yeah, definitely. And so yeah, I think Wix, was kind of the, did a little research on some of the options out there. And I think it was, between Wix, Squarespace, and I forget the other one. But Wix really just seemed like kind of the most seamless. The templates were clean. We wanted to go for like a simplistic look, and it just worked. I mean, it was an easy setup. Getting buying our first domain, which was kind of cool. Never bought a domain before, and I was like, wow, these are actually kind of cheap. I was like, I want to buy a bunch of domains, and
don't fall for it. It's a trap. It's a trap.
20 years ago. Yeah,
it's a trap.
So yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I think it really came down to the hardest part that we had to figure out is how, we can make a website or webpage look nice, but how do we actually tie in like data sets and, directories and search functionality? And Wix has been adding a ton of features, honestly, since we started a year ago. I think there's always something new that's coming out, and it's usually pretty helpful. The biggest thing was kind of the search functionality. and having the I think they updated like their their data sets or something. So now I figured out a way to go in and type a business name and the URL, and someone can search it on the directory. Whereas before we weren't able to do that. So it just took a lot of hours of tinkering and figuring out what worked and what didn't work. And finally, as of, I think it's only been like 2 weeks that we had the active search function up. It was under construction for the last couple months, but so yeah, it's definitely unique learning experience with the tools they're providing now. I think it's changing the game for a lot of people. And if even if you have an idea and you want to see how it looks, it's easy enough to go on for a day or two and see how it looks just from these no code solutions now.
I mean, see, this also gives encouragement to some non-technical co-founders, because like as when I speak to to founders, it's always like I'm looking for a technical founder, like I don't know how to do it. But you see, if especially if your idea is not solely reliant on technical parts of it, like there's always ways, right? Go like do it manually, like you guys are doing it. Talk to print out whatever, do it Excel spreadsheet, whatever you can figure out.
Yeah, definitely. To your point, Farouk, like we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here, and we're not like there's nothing kind of unique to any sort of code we would need that's our secret sauce. So for us, that was it was easier to kind of like find a no code solution and get off the ground. But yeah, you just have to like get in there and kind of get your hands dirty and just get started.
No, but sure. I do see a lot of technical potential, like with your system. Like there's so much I already see that you could do on a technical side that would make your business way easier and better. Like it would get more distributed. You'll get more of distribution, of your score, right? Easier instead of doing it manually. But little steps, obviously, you guys will get there eventually. But yeah, I see you guys having a technical side to it as well at some point.
They were looking for technical, expertise. So
you could always search on extrafounder.com.
Yeah, you could trade.
Now, look, this leads me to my next question. I just made my shameless plug. I want you guys to make a shameless plug right now. Something that you are working on, or maybe not even working on, that you want to take the time to shout out. I think I know what it is, but I'll give you the floor.
I don't know, Derek. What are we working on? What's the shout out we got?
Yeah, I think it's this little thing we've been talking about for the last hour.
Yeah, there you go. That's how
it's
you
not beer.
That's how you knock the underhanded ones out the park. What's I want you to shout out something that you're not affiliated with. What's something that you guys are just using, or that you've seen on the internet that you just think is really cool? You just want to bring some attention to.
I would say honestly, a lot of new things popping up around the COVID response and seeing, solutions around that. Obviously, it's a big issue right now, and seeing some of the tools and software that's been developed just in that short period of time to kind of show the spread of COVID. And I don't know, personally, that's been kind of cool. And I don't know.
No, that responsiveness.
I think there's also two. Oh, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off, Christian.
No, you're good. No, I was just agreeing with Justin. It seems like all that happened super duper quick. But I am interested, Derek. You're shout out now, man.
Well, this is one that just kind of getting deeper into our efforts with Carbon and looking at, some of the services we can provide. We've kind of come across a couple other cool startups that are starting to kind of change some of the ways that like businesses offset, their carbon footprint. One is a startup called Nori that we've been in contact with, and their approach, I thought this was super unique too, just being in the solar industry and being in renewables. Basically, they're like, one of the big things with carbon capture is just soil, turning the soil back on. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of you could do a little research on that, but I'm pretty sure, a lot of the way that agriculture, and in particular, think cattle, pasture raising, they kind of like don't utilize the carbon capturing potential of the soil. And so, this company does, carbon capture, or they do like carbon offsets by kind of like turning the soil back on. So it's really with like farm agricultural partners. So I think that's a really neat idea that's not only like having a real impact, but, is able to kind of like help businesses do the right thing. So, that's one that I think has been pretty cool.
Correct me if I'm oversimplifying this. So they plant a tree for every negative action or something similar to that?
Not exactly. I think close, but not quite. Really what they're doing is just kind of like turning the natural, it's not necessarily a tree. I don't know exactly all the ins and outs of how it works, but I'm pretty sure like if you look at like huge cattle farms in, whatever state, I think a lot of the soil's just like total dirt. It's just, there's no like grasses or anything growing on it, just because the cattle kind of stay like I guess walking all over the pasture land. So and I might be wrong about this or butchering it a little bit too, but kind of my layman understanding is that there are ways to kind of like turn that soil back on so it will capture CO2 emissions. And so yeah, I think kind of what they're doing is really neat because it's actually making a positive impact. So
interesting. Yeah.
No, absolutely. No, I mean, it's a lot of interesting things going on in this space because it still feels early. Like that's the cool thing about working in tech right now, working in whether it's consumer internet web or whether it's energy or life sciences, all this stuff still feels super duper early. And it's exciting to see the changes that can happen in as short of a time as, 6 months, a year.
Well, one thing I noticed when we were just speaking about this is like, I just saw it somewhere in news that there's a startup now that got approved in Washington State that you can do human compost, right? So so if you die, you get I probably posted it on Twitter. So it's so now look, you get to feed the plants, right? It's the plants are like, yes, finally, we've been feeding you guys for a very long time.
Yeah, I think I saw that too. I think there was some issue around like improper disposal of a corpse. Like I think that's like a that's like a law.
$1 million to dump bodies in the lots.
And I think there was initially like some issue they kind of had to like get around that to make sure that but yeah, I remember kind of hearing about that a little while ago, and it sounds like they got the green light, which is cool.
Yeah, no pun intended there. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, who are you going to feed? Are you going to feed the worms or are you going to feed the plants, right? Yeah, I mean, you're going to be feeding somebody.
Feeding the fish.
Right. Feeding the fish. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you could feed the fish too.
Nah, man, this has been great. Look, where can the people find you guys, Justin and Derek? Where on the interwebs can you be found?
So we're all across social media. Look up CarbonX, QUARBONX. And the URL is carbonx.com. So we're actively posting and keeping in touch with our audience. Say hi, let us know what you think, and we'll follow back for sure.
Hey, post your Twitter handles in the chat here, just so we can connect also as well.
Yeah.
No, I just want to make sure that we know where to tag. Once we do release this episode, I just want to make sure we're tagging the right people, right place, because it'd be awkward if, carbon with the, who knows?
Triple X.
Carbon triple X, right? Triple X carbon, yeah. Gets tagged in this interview. And it's like, what the hell is that?
I would not be surprised if there's one. Like,
that's
and
my.
And I'll share the Instagram too.
Carbon triple X. I like it.
Well, guys, we appreciate you joining us on another episode of Thank God for Internet. As always, I'm trying to think of something cool to say right here as we wrap these things up. We still don't have it yet, but if you made it this far, we really do appreciate you for listening. Until next time, this has been Thank God for Internet.